thank you. I feel very militant after all these green speeches and all of that. So yes, we are the militant people here. I want to thank you, Ricardo, because I've been asking myself for the past 2.5 years as we've been meeting so naturally and how it came about organically, like what keeps us coming week after week to our meetings? What keeps everybody so excited? I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then when you guys called me and gave me this title, I was like, that's it. It's actually collective healing that is keeping us together, and collective healing through trying to do something about the situation. So now I have an answer for that special sauce at the network. So how did we get together? Basically, we are private sector individuals, and most of us used to believe that there's this big wall between politics and economics. السياسة وسخين, and we don't want to deal with it, and everybody who runs for elections are people we don't want to deal with. We just focus on our business and our immediate circle of influence. وكتر خير الله. This was our attitude because we were also traumatized by the war and what came out of the war, and we had kind of given up. And we also were very disgruntled, at least us in our network, with the other business associations that seemed to replicate the same pattern, whether in the way their board was set up, which is on a sectarian basis as well, the way they make their decisions, the way they kind of smooth their way between the politicians, and finally don't get much done for the private sector cause, but each get a lot done for their own businesses. So there was this already that turn-off. And then the crisis came about, and everybody was on the streets, of course, and a lot of us from the private sector community started first with, let's say, Khat Ahmar, and we were very happy doing the Independence Parade. From ideation to execution, we're so efficient. And then, little by little, we started veering more into real private sector and letting the people who want to do politics be politics. Until one day, after observing so many initiatives, we thought, okay, there's a lot of good initiatives out there. Now let's try to bring them together, because every private sector voice is talking on its own. So it started in one Zoom meeting in February 21. We were 3 people representing 3 different entities, and we started having a conversation. And week after week, we would meet on a Friday, and it was more like commiserating. So there's COVID, there's economic collapse, there's the absence of the state, and it was more commiserating. But with people joining week after week, we reached 20, 25, we started getting together and saying, okay, let's formalize this. We're heading somewhere. And we started treading into getting guest speakers, talking about the crisis, explaining the causes of the crisis, until we realized we are an advocacy group. Let's be an advocacy group. Let's not be ashamed of being an advocacy group. And we started getting advice how to do effective advocacy. It's not our business. We're business people, and we're doing this on volunteer basis in the afternoon. As this developed, as we started talking to the candidates that were going into elections, as we were looking at this entire landscape, we finally realized, all right, we need to start becoming more official, and let's do our coming out. To raise the voice of the private sector, to say that no more, we don't just get the hits and be expected to rebuild without having our say in the rebuilding. So, okay, we will rebuild. This is our nature as a private sector community, as Lebanese in general. But at least while we're doing so, we need to make sure we have a seat on the table. And so we actually launched our activities in May 22. We had 650 people attend. It was actually a shock for us and made us realize, oh, we do need to continue. This is a cause worth continuing and worth trying to focus on what are the key areas of influence. So in May 22, we did Save Today, Build Tomorrow. We spoke to the new elected politicians, and we told them, we've listened to you, now you need to listen to us, and these are the 10 conditions for improving our economy and all of that. And I cannot say it landed on dead ears, but we started realizing after May 22 and until a year later that to have impact, yes, we will keep doing pressure, yes, we will keep screaming and shouting, yes, we will keep refusing, but we need something else to channel this energy of ours that wants to impact change. And by the time we hit the second year, which is by June 23, we brought together all our thinking into a movement. And the movement, we called it Lebanon Works. And the reason, where did Lebanon Works come from? As we were observing all the policy advocacy that is taking place, we felt there's a huge gap, and that gap is the focus on employment. So if we want to bridge between being a political economic advocacy group that is refusing the status quo, as well as trying to promote growth and sustainability, the critical element is unemployment. And an unemployed citizen will continuously elect the same politicians. They are under the mercy of these politicians. So from the angle, from the political angle, we thought it was a critical focus. But also from an economic development angle, nobody is actually talking about how are we going to employ. We're very good at beating ourselves. Lebanese ما بيشتغل, they don't like to do this job, that's why we have foreign labor. So how much effort was put in trying to train the Lebanese, in trying to change the work culture, in trying to address the core issue? There is a huge unemployment. And with this huge unemployment, we're losing our active and productive youth, which means we will lose our identity in the long run. So with Lebanon Works, it's a movement, because we can't be a political party, we don't want to be a political party, and we cannot bear arms, but we can employ. So it tries to bring all elements in society that are working on job creation initiatives or on the enabling system to allow for these initiatives. So employers, like a lot of us, educators that are training, skilling, reskilling, or identifying the skills that are missing, and business enablers, like people who are giving access to funds, donors, grants, etc., bringing them together under one platform to start communicating and collaborating and highlighting these positive initiatives. So, I'm done, right?
No, not yet, but I have a question for you.
Still have a lot to say.
I know it's a new initiative, etc. Do you have already some statistics, some good news? Have you have some new job openings? Have you hired, I don't know, 10, 20, 100 students? Where are you in the practical part of your initiative?
Okay, so we don't create the jobs, we actually highlight what exists out there. So far we have those that are registered on Lebanon Works. They constitute 10,500 employees. There are more than 100 companies, but it's very, very much in its beginning. The idea is to create communities which will collaborate and talk to each other and have access for information. So if your business is looking for funds, there will be a community that has all the funds available, all the donations available, all the grants, all the credit facilities that are available, so that you know how to maneuver in the situation of no banking system. If you're a company that needs to train its employees in anything, then you have another cluster, another community about skilling and upskilling. Or if you're like a company like ours, I'll just give you a small example. We have farms and we have quite a bit of foreign labor. We were able to replace with Lebanese labor, but we have over 200 that are still foreign. So part of my duty as a Lebanese is to hire Lebanese. I would love to go somewhere where I can find all the initiatives that could train these farmers, or at least start instigating this conversation under improving employment and contributing to GDP growth.
I think education and job creation are the salvation of our country. We need to keep our youth in Lebanon. Today you have many, many initiatives where young people are working in Lebanon for companies overseas. We have one, I forgot the name, but they have about 500 engineers that are living in Lebanon, working sometimes from home, from the office, and selling their services overseas to companies in the US, in Asia, in Europe. We have very bright kids here, and we need to keep them. And with the difficulties of obtaining visas overseas, they have nowhere to go, and they're stuck here. So we need to help them with initiatives like yours, or like LIFE, that I'm part of and I'm very proud of. We do also, not only scholarships and help them and mentoring, but we also try to find them jobs to close the circle. And this is what you're doing as well with the private sector, who finally woke up. Okay?
Yeah, and there's so, if I may interrupt.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, there's a big push to change the narrative there's three things that we actually cannot stand hearing anymore. One of them is the private sector, الرأس المال المتوحش, which is so wrong. If there are a few creating that reputation, it is so unfair. The private sector is everybody, and it's everybody who stands up the next day and cleans all the debris and stands up again, and employs. So this bashing of the private sector, we take it very personally. We consider it the bashing of our Lebanese entrepreneurial, innovative energy. So this is one thing that we literally fight against, changing the narrative, raising the voices of the private sector community that are doing so much good and contributing actually to our survival today. So this is one. The second narrative that we do not like, and we have to all refuse to say it, and I caught somebody say it, and I was like, ding. We don't know how to work together. نحن اللبنانية أنانية وما بنعرف نشتغل مع بعض ندبر مع بعض وكله ego كله ego. No, it's not true. It is not true. And actually, the more we are connecting with people, the more we're realizing how many communities actually come together and work together. Did it take this crisis for us to do it? I don't know. But what I do know, and what we know in the network, is that it is false. And this is what we also fight. So our fight is against that narrative, the other narrative, and finally our fight is against people saying, هذا ما بيزبط بلبنان, forget about it, دمرونا, كسرونا, حرقونا. That negative defeatist attitude, it is true دمرونا, it is true كسرونا, it's true فلسونا. We're not denying that. But if we want change to happen, we need to first start changing the way we talk about ourselves. We cannot continue with this self-flagellation if we want to feel empowered enough to make the change. Absolutely. So these are the three narratives that we work on. Of course, this is other than the policy asks and the positions concerning different policy measures and the long-term economic model. So, of course, we have all that advocacy happening.
This is your Zahlawi blood that comes up when you start shooting at the politicians. So this is your advocacy part. Anyways, as long as we have people like you, like Pierre, like Mona, like many in this room, I think this country will make it and will survive. I have no doubt about it. We went through these things for thousands of years. We're going to go through them even, I think, for more thousands of years. But we'll be here. We're not going to move. This is our country. And we're going to make it happen for our children and our grandchildren. So, Rima, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Mona.